Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to do it again.
He's got a shiny attitude.
If no one shows up, I don't blame you. It's too hard to do this and try to follow along when I drop out for the 4th time. So, I want to give it a little bit of time, see if anybody comes on. I'm still going to paint this thing, whether or not anybody comes on or not. And if it dumps out again, and you guys don't show back up, then I don't blame you. There's more interesting things on Netflix to watch that don't dump out so much. Yeah. Let's give it another go.
The charm.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try. Last week was great. We made Jason's back. Last week was great. We made it through the whole thing in one go. Didn't lose everybody. It was awesome. Tonight, not so much. All right. That's right, Paula. So, moving on. Inside's white. It's not real solid in there. I'll deal with that later on. Make it a little bit better when you guys aren't watching. But let's move on to the base color of this guy. This brush may be too big. We'll run a couple brushes around the spider.
Dan's back.
Dan, what's up? So here's the thing, you know, we did this little spider last time because people want to know how it's made, and he's all cool and all, but when it comes to painting the pumpkin, it's a pain trying to paint around him, especially painting it in this fashion. But we'll get her done. I got it done once before. So the base color that we're going to start out with, we're going to take some brown, and then we're going to mix some orange in it, and we're going to make this a dark, or deeper, darky, muddier brown color. We're going to go around the whole thing with this darker color. A little bit of brown. It's probably too much brown. A little bit of orange. Mix this up. So add a little more orange to this. And we're going to add a little bit of water. Thin this down.
Joseph's back.
Joseph's back. Amy's back, I think. I think Dan's back.
Boss.
Paula made it back.
Oh, it says there's 12. I just don't see them all.
I really have to thank you guys for showing back up. Do I prefer one brand of paint over the others? I prefer cheap, right? That's my go-to. So, no, not really. And I probably need to play around with other brands because they might actually work better. But I mean, this thing was like $1 or 89 cents or something. So every time I go buy paint for Halloween props, especially when it comes to these acrylics, I always buy cheap. I mean, I'm slopping this stuff on. I'm going to seal it up later, and they all seem to do just fine. You know, I've got an airbrush, and I have noticed with that the airbrush, I probably really need to buy a better quality paint for my airbrush. Anytime you're spraying something, the quality of the paint really does make a difference. But when you're just slopping it on like this with a brush, you can get away with, boy, that's pretty dark. Woo. That'll work though. You can get away with cheap paint. It's all in the layers, man.
You don't add ice. Just shimmer.
You can make anything look good. And like Paula said, yeah, the cheaper, the better. Right? And that's why half my projects are just made out of stuff that's around the house. And there's always better ways to make stuff that I make. I mean, don't get me wrong, I got a background in mechanics and things, and I've done a lot of stuff, and I know the proper ways and some different things out there that would make stuff a lot better. But when I'm playing around, when I'm making props, cheap is best, because I like to try to make a lot of props, right?
Joseph says that that's his. I'm famous for what I do for cheap. You don't do black paint first anymore.
No, I don't. So this new painting style is different. Like I used to do black paint first, and then I dry brush the white on, and then everything was just kind of like a watered down wash over it, and then you really relied on the white paint or primer, whatever you're using to create the depth and detail that was in there. And that wasn't my real go-to. I mean, Scott Stahl did that a lot, and I have never taken any of his classes, but I saw that he was doing it, and I gave it a try, and I liked it. At the same time, I've always tried to do things kind of different, or try to do things different from everybody else that was out there. And I came across some guys who paint like those little miniature things for like Dungeons and Dragons and games like that. And they were showing some some highlights on how to paint those little guys and really use highlight techniques and things like that. So I started giving that a try and playing around with that, and I have found that I like that a lot better. It takes more time, but the end result's a lot better. And this pumpkin's going to be crazy because this orange is really a lot darker than I usually start out with. But that'll be okay. I'll make it work.
I didn't see Connie Johnson is on here. I didn't see her before.
Connie. Nope. Let's get around this spider real quick so I can move on to the rest of this body and make it quicker. I feel the same way right now as I felt the first time I put the spider on. It was so great when I was sculpting it to put it on. It was such a neat accent piece, and I really liked it. And now that I'm painting this pumpkin, I hate it. I wish it wasn't on here.
Joseph said, cool, thanks, that's why we're here to learn.
Well, hopefully you guys will learn a few things. There's a few of you on here that I don't think I could teach you much, but I'm glad you're watching anyway.
Ross says, I met an Irish pumpkin named Jack O'Lantern.
Ha ha. Get in here. Oh my gosh. It takes so much time to get around this thing. Such a pain.
Paul says, haha, sorry I requested it.
Yeah, it's your fault, Paula. You're the only freaking reason I did it. The things I suffer for the requests of viewers, of friends. Let's get through this thing.
My bad, she said.
It's alright, I knew what I was in for. Once I did the first time, I knew what I was going to run into again this time. See, like this right here, and it's hard to see on the camera, but there's that little lip right there from when I had the thing sitting down. I could have sanded that out or took a file and ground that out. It kept the ridge all the way down around it and made it look that much better, but it'll work. No one around this house is going to notice it, so.
Amy said I'm definitely going to try it at least once, and Connie says looks like a pain.
I mean, the spider is a pain when you're like painting around him, right? But he's a really cool detail, to be honest, sitting on top of the pumpkin. I thought about building the spider separately and then putting it on after it dried. But then I don't think I could get him to connect to the pumpkin as well, you know, because he's kind of molded to it, and I like that.
Joseph says, are you watering the paint down like you did on the second generation pumpkin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm watering it down. And I didn't make enough to begin with, so now our paint mixture is going to be off. Oh, well. Yeah, I always watered this down. The reason for... Oh, look at that big glob. Go somewhere else. The reason I water this down, especially when we start to lighten this up and bring the colors up, with it watered down, it makes it easier to blend the colors together and not have a harsh line, right, in between these lighter colors and the darker colors. So that's the biggest reason I watered this stuff down.
Ross says you could have used a toothpick to attach and detach the spider. Paula was just wondering about that too. To give me ideas.
Say that again. What was Ross's idea?
You could have used a toothpick to attach and detach the spider.
Yeah, that's true. Stuck him on there and then kind of pulled him back. But then when I did this the other night too, I poked the legs down inside, you know, and left him in position. And that's, you know, that's a good idea. I might try that, but at the same time too, right? Because I didn't use the wood clay and I used this clay, this stuff shrinks. And when it shrinks, it changes its shape. It always does. So let's say we made this little guy and we stuck him on a toothpick. I suppose if we held him off the top of the pumpkin just a little bit and then let him dry and pull him back off later, that would work. As long as he dried while he was sitting in place, that way as his shape changed, he was still hugging the pumpkin. That may work. Good idea. I will have to try that on my future endeavors. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I mixed this so dark to begin with. And once again, I'm going to say it once again, this first layer is way darker than I normally do. It could be because I've had a couple cups of rum before I started this painting session tonight.
Gotta have dark to show light, Bob Ross.
That's very true. It's going to make these ridges super dark. They'll stand out. I just worry about how many more layers I'm going to have to do to lighten it up. We'll find out.
Happy little spider. Spiders.
Oh, look, I got a hair stuck in my pumpkin that molded in with the clay. And the paint's not covering it very well. Oh well. It'll be okay. All right. So we are now all the way around him. I got to give this just a little bit of time to set and dry up just a bit. But we're not going to waste a lot of time, and we'll move on to the next round of orange.
This part doesn't have entry. Because I don't have entry.
Alright, so we went like 100%. That's right. Drink a few more. It's always better after a few more. We went all the way around this guy with this dark orange. And for now, I'm going to stay with the same
No, what did you do?
same orange color. And I'm going to go like,
Can't mess with it.
we're like 100% coverage, right, with this first go around. And now we're going to do like 98% on the next go around. Will you hand me that little turntable right there?
Colin hasn't. What?
Will you hand me that little turntable right there?
What does
Right
Colin
behind
need
us.
to do, Bree? What does he need to do? What does he need to do? What?
So this is, these little Lazy Susan things are great
Tell him to come here.
when you're painting anything or painting a pumpkin or whatever. And you can move it without touching anything. Much easier to get it done. And we're back on the spider again. So the reason I'm using the same color right now is it's just going to fill in a little more, and it's going to bring, it'll actually kind of lighten up in a little fashion by using the same color and just building that color up a little bit. And it'll make this blend much smoother between the colors.
You did see about the drinking, right?
Yes, I
Talking to
did.
Bree. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I need to bring my heat gun in here. I could flash dry this real quick.
Where's that?
It's in the garage. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll do it next time. So that's something too. If you guys got a heat gun, like I was saying, and I've done it before. If you got a heat gun and you're doing these layers, you can hit it real quick with a heat gun and kind of do a little flash dry on it real fast. And then move on.
Joseph said found an awesome stainless steel Lazy Susan for $2.
Oh,
Maybe in
yeah.
the store this weekend. I can spin a horse on.
That's freaking awesome.
I think I got that from Walmart. It was just for like in the what you're using. It was for spices.
Yeah, it was just a spice rack.
Oh, thrift store. You know. I was wondering what he meant. Thank you for clarifying. I thought there was a store called Thing. I don't know. You never know anymore.
Well, and once again, here's the hardest thing for me doing live, right? When I make my other videos, I can sit here and be quiet and listen to music and just really get into what I'm doing. And then when I'm doing live and I start getting into it, then all of a sudden I realize, oh yeah, I've got people watching me do this.
Kind of sad that they can't like talk back. That'd be really cool.
And I try to remember you guys are there so I can talk to you. You're not just bored. It would be awesome, like Carrie said, if like we have the chat, but it would be so cool if we could do like video or like at least audio where you guys could just ask questions and I could hear you and talk back and forth more. Almost like a Google chat. That would be pretty cool. But then too, you're still limited on who can do the chat with you. And how many people that can be on there at once. Alright, so that's a good... I got a potty mouth too. I just try not to use it too much online. Alright, so we're our second layer there. Now we're going to start lighting this up a little bit. We'll add some straight orange into this. Get this to lighten up quite a bit more. Oh, don't clog up on me. That may be too light. Well, we're going to use it anyway. If anything, when you're watching live, do what we talk about and not what you see. Because I rush it when live instead of taking more time so that you guys don't get too crazy bored watching. I use my fingers a lot to try to blend down. Another thing when you're doing this, if you have a dry brush, completely dry, right, and you feel like you got too harsh of a line between your colors, if you come back through with a dry brush with no paint on it, then you can feather that in and make that a better blend between. And even right now, you guys can see that this is quite a bit, the light's terrible. You know what? I didn't set my lighting up. Let me turn that light on. Turn those two lights on. This looks pretty harsh right now, right? It's a pretty big contrast between what we put on and what I'm putting on now. But that's why this will only last while it's fresh and wet. After this dries down, it will tone down quite a bit and be quite a bit darker. So don't get too scared if the contrast seems too much at first. Because generally by the time it dries back out, you're still pretty good.
Is that one not plugged in?
It may be unplugged.
Do you want me?
Yeah, we might.
It is.
We might. Alright. And this is where the spider's a real pain. When we're trying to get these highlighted colors in here a little bit more.
Is that too much?
And no, I think that's fine. I guess we need to ask them. We just turned some other lights on that I forgot to turn on. Is that better or is that worse for you guys that are watching? I should probably turn this overhead light off. It may help you guys out a little bit. How about this? Is that worse or better? It looks like it's a little worse. I'll turn that back on.
Amy said not much difference earlier, but I don't
Yeah.
know about now.
I caught that.
Okay. Worse. Worse, she said.
Yeah.
With
The overhead light off.
the overhead.
Yep. One of these days, I'm going to buy some actual, like, studio lights, right?
I had some for you, but we
And
were
have it
low.
set up nice where you guys can really see the paint and the color so much better. I'm going to use it for all the videos. A few things at a time we got to do though. And when you're actually doing these layers, like I'm rushing this tonight, right? If you give it a little more time in between your lighter coats and your darker coats to dry itself out a little bit better, it will work much better for you. It doesn't have to be completely dry. It just needs to be drier than what I'm allowing this to do tonight. Because when it's still wet, you still pull some of the other color. It doesn't settle in quite right, and you'll pull that other color off, and it'll just give you issues. So if you take your time, allow it to have 5 or 10 minutes between and dry out, you'll see it blend a little bit better. Get that goober out of there. And now we dance.
Monday I'm going to use that look aesthetic I sent you on one of my projects. Don't know what I'm going to add it to yet.
That'd be really cool. that wolf prosthetic looked really neat, man. You can make a sweet prop with that too. I mean, not only was that an awesome costume design, but yeah, if you use that on a project too, wow, that'd be sweet. I thought that was pretty cool. Paula sent me this picture of this wolf prosthetic deal she made out of makeup, and I'm assuming latex and other things. And it was really kind of like an old school Wolfman, and it was really cool. Really neat. She did a really good job with it.
Finally off this live, it'd be windy.
Sweet. Glad to have you here live. I don't know, maybe more exciting to watch it unlive, where you can fast forward it to wherever you want to be. Where did my dry brush go? Here it is. Let's blend this in a little bit better. See, I don't know.
Amy says she's going to watch us tomorrow. Time for my work sees.
See you, Amy. Thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting for a little while. I don't know. Okay. And here, you see that right there? The little white piece right there? Right, so that's driving me bonkers. It's because I'm going so fast and just trying to do this without allowing things to dry. And I pulled the bottom paint off, and I've got this thing on here, and I think it's my actual clay popping through. I don't think something else stuck to it. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, nope, negative. It's my dirty workspace. That's what that was. Since I haven't cleaned down here in forever. Thought I pulled my paint all the way back off because I'm rushing it so much. But I guess I was wrong. And if any of you guys got an airbrush, I mean, I got one too. You can do the same thing with an airbrush. It's a lot faster. I'm not real skilled with my airbrush yet at all. So I always find myself going back to paintbrush and paint. And then when I try to do my videos too, or even like these live classes, right? We all know you can make killer stuff with a paintbrush. I mean, killer stuff with an airbrush. And I try to show everybody that you can still make cool stuff, even cool painted stuff with just typical stuff. Cheap acrylic paints. Like, I mean, this is a cheap brush too. This isn't anything special. It's not some special horse-haired, lamb wool, whatever paintbrush. It was in a freaking whole kit for like $2.
Paula said thanks, latex, cotton, aluminum foil, totally DIY.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, that wolf thing looked cool. I showed you the picture of that, didn't I?
Mm-mm.
I didn't? I swore I did. Well, you guys keep conversation going. I don't know what to say. I am so kind of in the zone on painting this thing. I will. I'll answer any questions, even my deepest, darkest secrets, while you've got me live on YouTube.
You better get on that, guys.
Doesn't even have to relate to paper mache. Alright, so like I said before, here we got all the way around this thing. When I first started right here, there was major contrast on the new paint that I was doing, but now that it's dried down some, it's toned down, it's hard to tell I even did anything, which is cool, which is fine. That's what creates this kind of slow, gentle blend between these highlights and these things down here. So we're going to go with the same, I'm going to go with the same tone one more time all the way around, then we'll lighten it up a little bit more. I know I just missed Jason. How long have I been doing?
I was getting ready to say that.
So, I don't know. I've been doing, what would you say? I've been doing paper mache for hot and heavy for 8 years now.
Probably.
I'd say, just guessing, that I've been doing it pretty steady, paper mache wise, pretty steady for 8 years now, somewhere in there. I dabbled with it earlier on, just kind of experimenting with it, and then I got really kind of hooked on it and started going with it. Yeah, for a good 8 years, right? And I started making some stuff, and I had friends who were online and on YouTube, other hunters and stuff, and they, saw some of my projects, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool," and whatever. I wish I could do something like that, and so I started doing the YouTube videos to just make a point and be like, if I can do this, anybody can do this, right? Because I don't have an art background. I didn't take art in school. I didn't take one art class at all in school. So, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
No, but the art class in Baxter High School did come to see his yard one year, so.
Yes, the art school in town did come to check out the yard and check out the props, but
Wendy said, "Do you ever get burned out from making too many similar things? I used to sell snowmen I made, but not me got to me."
yeah, if you repeat the same thing over and over and over again, I understand that. The monotony does get to you. I did some snowmen this year too. I hate to say that, but I did. And making those guys over, because I basically made 3 of the same, basically the same kind. And I tried to keep them the exact same all the time. And it did get very monotonous. But when it comes to Halloween, I don't get too bored with it or burn out with it. I know there's a lot of pumpkin stuff, and I've got a lot of pumpkin stuff on my channel. The only reason I did this guy for the first live class was because he was easy to do. He's easy to follow along, especially for beginners. And since I knew that I didn't know anything about YouTube Live, I pretty much figured that I should do something fairly simple for me that wasn't going to take a lot of my concentration to do while I tried to figure out YouTube Live. That's the only other reason I've done another pumpkin. But I enjoy pumpkins too because they're easy. They're easy and they're just true Halloween to me. But I make several different things, like for the yard and stuff. I've, of course, made the pumpkin sentinels. I made ground breakers and made shrunken heads and witches and werewolves.